first, I'm going to have a little snack. And then another snack. Then we're going to make some more plants. First, of course, we got to snip, 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 snip. Try to get as much as we can down into the soil, because I kind of, from a couple years of doing this, pretty much expect this plant to actually die out, but for it to put all of its energy into roots to make another plant. Then here in another couple of weeks we should see a good amount of growth coming up from the soil. So try to bury it as far down as you can. Might have actually helped if I had stuck this into the soil to make a pilot hole, but that'll be perfectly fine. For good measure, we generally have gotten better results by just snipping the top off. And that is what we call a softwood cutting. I've had a lot of experience actually the last couple of years with trimming back raspberry bushes and blackberry bushes and actually just sticking that material into the ground next to it. The funniest example is actually this raspberry that we randomly stuck in the ground last year, and it's coming up through the comfrey. And it's we actually never thought that was going to work, but it did, so that just gave us even more confidence to do more of this. So it might seem a little daunting, but with these soft wood cuttings, it really is possible just to chop the tops of these off and get it stuck into the soil so that it can create its own separate root structure, and then you can get more plants out of that, which will probably even fruit this year. And our main goal actually is to create as many plants as possible rather than eating the fruit this year. So we have been eating a lot of it already, but what we want to do is we want to get as many of these plants multiplied into the largest area possible. Just don't lose them as they fall. I'm right-handed, so cutting plants with my left hand is actually a little bit difficult. One of the great things about raspberries is you see how much growth there is on the top. We could actually cut this again in the middle. We would have a great chance, I think, of getting this to root because it's thicker. And then at the top, I think we still would have a chance. And we might as well cut that extra bit off because it only needs this much to actually start the roots. So might as well take an extra cutting and try to increase our chances of getting more growth. Now, from the cut that I made there, this will actually spur additional growth. So over the next couple, 3 weeks, this branch, this stem will probably take over and it'll shoot straight up and increase its growth, like it'll multiply its growth. And I only say that because I did this last year and the year before, and the results are amazing. With just a pair of scissors and really just sticking them in the ground like I showed you that one little cutting, you can get more plants and save yourself a lot of money. To show you this growth of this bushing out a lot better, here is a cut that we made last year at the same time in the midsummer, and that spurred all of this additional growth right here. It also came from the top and spurred, I know it's hard to see because it's bushing out so much, but it spurred all this additional growth with a lot more snackies and this lower stem as well. So there's a really good video that we saw of this guy who actually made raspberry bushes, different colors and all that stuff, primocanes, floricanes, all that stuff. He did a really great detailed video, and I'll link that and I'll put it under here, and when I edit it, the name of the video, and I'll put the link in there. But he actually used his raspberry bushes as a hedge, like a bush hedge, and from far away it looks just like that. Just check that out because that's really an amazing video, and it helped us understand better the growth habits of raspberry canes. So what we have is a softwood cutting, and all of these little stems or the branches that come off of this are very similar to bushes like currants. And what we want to do with those is very similar. It's a very similar procedure. You just grow them, you actually just do the work at a different time. to show you the difference in time, we're going to follow this raspberry cane that is growing out of control all the way to our elderberry. We planted this as a bush. We planted this 2 years ago, and this center stem right here is the original plant. And of course it's increased in size and all that since then, and these have shot up after that. The distinction I'm trying to make with that is what we're doing with the raspberries is taking the first year's growth or the current year's growth and using that to create a new plant. But when the case of an elderberry or a currant, what you want is to use the hardwood. So next year we're actually going to cut this down and we're going to bury this node after trimming this into the soil, and we're going to leave this much growth. What that's then going to allow us to do is multiply this one huge bush into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get the idea. We can multiply this bush next spring 30-fold because of the amount of growth that's on it. And the original amount of plant that's in there will continue to grow. And because we pruned it, the growth will actually be more vigorous. So I almost expect nearly the same size bush tomorrow or next summer after we prune and get all the cuttings. I expect almost the same size bush next year. Maybe 30% smaller, but I'll have, what, 50 more bushes that are that size? So to give you a better idea, I'm going to go over to my nursery and I'm going to show you the currants that we put in as cuttings this spring to show you the growth of those. But this is our nursery area that's now extended into the pathway, and then on the other side of it, we have a mixture of different plants and all that. But this right here, in this area over here, are all currants that we planted as cuttings this year. You can see here is the cutting that we put in almost nearly all the way to the bottom. We left a couple of nodes in the dirt, and then it started growing all of this year. Now a currant doesn't grow as vigorously as an elderberry or a raspberry. It's kind of in between, but essentially all of these cuttings and all of these all came from the same mature bush, and you can see just how much we have growing. Here's another good example of growth from a cutting this year, but also right here is from the new rootstock. So you'll see some of these pop up. I'm pretty sure that is currant. Not sure what these are, but as you can see, we just put that hardwood cutting in the ground as far as we could. I think we had put some of the rooting hormone on there. It had continued to grow from this plant from one of the nodes, and then it's starting to shoot up even more. And that is actually one of the most interesting or best part of growing your own food, is bushes and trees and all these different things. They actually respond really well with vigorous growth to give you more food when you prune them. And all you do is you just take those prunings and you put them back in the soil somehow. If you want to use pots so you can kind of organize it like I have, or if you want to just stick them in the ground, it's really up to you. Now, in order to increase your chances, you could use rooting compound. Just kind of dip it in the little rooting compound little jar there, and that'll increase the chances. But in the cases of currants, elderberries, especially raspberries, it's really unnecessary. But if you want to add yourself maybe a 5% increase in probability, you can buy one of those little jars and dip your cutting in there, and it'll grow for you. So thank you for watching as I try to make it through my own nursery. There's a man doing some yard work next door, so I guess I'll cut this short. But I hope you got something out of this. Please check out that other man's channel, which I haven't figured out the name of it yet because I don't have that good of a memory. But I'll look that up and get it in the show notes or the description. And well, I got some more propagating to do. So we'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye. Well, hello, Lucy birds. What, you say propagate now? Midsummer's a great time to propagate? I know, spring's a good time too. I know, spring's a good time too, but raspberries... Okay, we'll get back to work. Okay, Lucy, sorry. We'll get back to work.